Mae Waymeyer is a multi-talented lady. She has many projects that she's been involved in over the years of her life. She has logged in so many volunteer hours. I don't know that she would even know how many they are. Recently, she got together a used jewelry sale, and it turned out to be very successful. And all the proceeds went to the scholarship fund for our employees. During the pandemic, Mae just decided that she was going to write poetry. She calls it musings, but anyway, this is what it looks like. And so I talked to her and I thought, well, she sure should share some of these poetry or musings with us. So I'm just really happy to be here with her today and interview her and let her share some of these pieces with you.
Thank you for the opportunity to share some of these thoughts. I am not an amateur. I'm a free verse poet, and I write to express feelings and also to paint pictures. And that's what I will be doing with those that I am reading this afternoon. My first poem that I'm going to read is my favorite time of day is night. Hey, Mr. Moon, where were you last night? I missed you, but you are excused. In your absence, I gazed at the stars. They were magnificent. So bright they looked like diamonds scattered in the dark blue velvet. There were the big Little Dippers, the North Star, Ursa Major and Minor, Cassipio and Draco, to name a few, those we can see in the northern hemisphere. I just wanted to make you jealous. But Mr. Moon, I do love you. I love the way your soft beams cover the earth, the shadow of the limbs against a fading sky in the evening. You make the earth friendly for many of our little creatures who fear the light but skitter around in the soft gray of night, until the wise old owl with his 270-degree vision, standing guard in the dark, eyes them as they become his midnight bite. You have such magic. You make an uneventful date an unforgettable romantic moment. Or is that leftover stardust in after your absence? Your presence brings quiet to our voices, words, and actions. The way we close a door or tiptoe in the quiet or say goodnight with a real sense of care. My next poem has some levity in it. It's a naughty Christmas girl. She was the most beautiful doll, no baby doll with wobbly legs and arms. She was a little girl with legs she could stand on, arms to reach out and take your hand. When you laid her down, her beautiful eyes would close. I found her in the stockroom of my father's store, in a secret place, in the toy space. I would slip up to the stockroom when I came home from school to spend a few moments with my newfound friend, carefully returning her to the secret space in my hiding place. On a visit with my best friend Betty Ann, I could not keep my delicious secret, so I swore Betty Ann not to tell. Betty Ann had a pesky 4-year-old brother, a constant bother to our play. I suggested we find something to distract the little pest. Betty Ann had some information. She knew where his Santa toys were hidden. We could do what you did, she said. Get his new tricycle out, let him ride it. A kitchen chair was our equipment to climb up and retrieve the tricycle. 4-year-old Jody was dancing up and down as his new wheels were lowered to the ground. Our plan was to put the tricycle away before parents returned. But when we tried to take the tricycle away from Jody, it was a determined no. So the criminals were caught. parents saw Jody whizzing around the house in his shiny new tricycle. The questioning began. "Where did you get the tricycle, Jody?" "Betty Ann and Mary Jane got it for me." The accused were sitting together on the sofa with heads lowered. The questions were turned to us as criminals do. The guilt was passed back and forth. Since Betty Ann's father was the inquisitor, she named me the instigator, then I named Betty Jane the executor. It may have been my idea, but Betty Ann provided the site in the chair. Punishment was decreed for both. I did not know Betty Ann's punishment, but I did know mine. On Christmas Day, I was up early to dash to the tree, expecting to find my beautiful doll. But there was a pair of mittens, some socks, and a dull coloring book about kittens. I tried to hide my disappointment, to keep my secret. It was a dull Christmas day. I had dreamed of a day of play with my new friend that I was going to name Gwen. After supper, as I passed through the living room, I couldn't believe my eyes. There she was sitting under the tree. As my crime had been wiped away, and I had a wonderful Christmas day with my friend and forgiveness. The next poem.
Now, how long did it take you to write? How many poems are in your...
Four.
I know how many poems are in your book.
Oh, I don't know how many. I have,
Okay.
between the poems and the just writings, I would say 12.
Okay.
12 or more.
Okay, yeah.
This one is one that is especially dedicated to the Korean veterans that are here. Monuments that come to life. It was a cold, windy day as I was strolling through the monument grounds near the Smithsonian Institute in Washington, D.C., when my eye caught different monuments from the generals on horses and statesmen who had shaped our country. Before me was a large patch of granite dented with what appeared to be hot footprints of platoon soldiers slugging through muddy field at the foot of a hill, the mission to conquer. The wind flapped bottoms of ponchos around the top of their boots. The soldiers struggled as they pulled their boot from the mud to take the next step. On their backs were backpacks with necessities for times unknown. Over their shoulders were the guns to protect them as they approached an enemy over the hill. Steel helmets shielded their faces as hard as the carved granite that shaped them. Beside the determined faces, thought and emotions whirled in their heads, covered by prayers for a safe return from battle. They were now sitting on the oath they had taken to pay the ultimate price to protect their country. They were now not only giving security to their country, they were also giving security to another country, South Korea. This was the Korean War Memorial, which saw thousands of Americans pay their price. This monument brought raw emotions as tears spilled from my eyes to be dried by the wind. And this is one that I've really had the most appreciation for in terms of quality of a poem, I would say. My thoughts of you were many while you were away. In the vacuum of your absence with demands of nuptials held at bay, I reflected on our love and on our presence in this life. I remembered the early years when we were by love, both possessing and possession. Each small conflict came upon the horizon like the Battle of Armageddon, threatening doom forever to our paradise. We were not one, but two. Not knowing in our youthful eyes that consummation physical only portends what the spiritual is to realize. Now the years have flowed one into the other, and for the sister there has been a brother. In this physical expression of our love is mirrored a spiritual union with the same miracle of birth. It came from day after day of duties continuous, often relieved by gay moments of mirth. But it showed itself supreme in the strife of a storm, when words like lightning, illuminating all, laid bare feelings long hidden in the darkness of frustration. But these storms were like nature in their ministration, not totally destructive as the early battles seemed to be. They merely pruned away the disease of doubt, suspicion, and discontent, and left renewed the quiet melded, the spirit melded from our love, which we now sense to be the essence of our existence, coming unsuspected, whole, and united into view. The last poem I had written, and then as I read it, I felt like that it was almost a metaphor for the refugees in Ukraine. It was an aimless walk in the woods. Trees were decaying and dead, reflecting my mood. Stress from seemingly endless problems had been assaulting me for weeks, leading to a feeling of hopelessness. I stepped sleuth-like, stealing across broken limbs and twigs under a carpet of crisp dying leaves, careful not to step on a slippery snake curled up to hibernate for the coming winter. The dreariness of the place seemed to reflect my mood. The woods had been left without care to the pruning of nature. Trees felled by lightning, limbs broken by wind, falling to the ground for the decaying process, and leaves had lost their color. Suddenly, a shaft of bright sunlight penetrated the dismal gray of death around me. Much to my surprise, in the midst of tangled twigs and colorless leaves, there was a beautiful cluster of bright magic lilies. I call them magic lilies because they appear suddenly from apparent no source. The slender stems push through whatever is above them to point with purpose toward the sun. At top of the stems are delicate and red blossoms of small slender petals, cupping up around a bright golden stamen. It was not only a sign of life, it was also a sign of life to be reborn in another season, regardless of where. To me, the sign of new life was a sign of hope in the midst of despair. Life was going on, and I would survive.
Well, that's. I want to thank you so much, Mae, for sharing that. It's just delightful. You have such an elegant way with words, and I tell you, it's not only the musings, but it's just kind of wonderful to sit and listen to the author of those musings. So
well, thank you so much.
Again, thank you for sharing that
so
with
much.
us.
I appreciate it very much. I like to do it. I like words.